Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching or listening in from. I'm Justin from the Rise Up podcast, and I'm here with Mrs. Canada Salter. I'm going to go down her a list of accomplishments, and we're going to dive into all of this. But she is the founder of A Perfect 10 Nail and Beauty Bar. She is founder of Lucid Polish and Polish Pro. And she is now owner of Bin 065, which is kind of like it's a beer, wine, tapas, beautiful, awesome place. And also founder and owner of Block Burgers and Brew, located in Rapid City, South Dakota, baby. So Canada, thank you for hanging out with me today.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
It is a mouthful going through all of that because you are quite the accomplished entrepreneur. And I would love to kind of dive into the story. So we have a couple things that you started with, and then now you are kind of another phase. So I'll kind of do phase one, okay? If you don't mind.
Okay.
Tell me all about like how A Perfect 10 Nail and Beauty Bar and the Lucid and the Polish line started. You have now since sold that business to an employee. Just want to make that clear. But that kind of sets the stage for phase two of what we're going to be talking about. So tell me how that all started and then how it brought you into the restaurant side of things, which is completely different. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a crazy story. So I graduated high school and I was going to college. That was what I was supposed to do. That's what all my friends were doing. And so I thought I better go to college. Never mind that I am just not a studious person. I'm not a book person. I just was gifted with street smarts and common sense, I guess you could say. So I lasted 2 weeks in college before I dropped out. And made that withdrawal deadline within a few hours of making sure that I got my money back. And so I had to figure out what I was going to do. And it was cosmetology. And so I went to cosmetology school and I worked in that industry for about 8 years and then just got burnt out. Corporate America kind of drove me into the ground and used and abused me. And I just was completely burnt out. And so I really did a 180 and ended up starting an insurance agency and selling insurance for about 12 years in Las Vegas, Nevada, of all places. That journey on the insurance world, it was something that I knew I wasn't going to do forever. And it was very, very good to me. It was very lucrative. It was a lot of fun, taught me some very honed in sales skills. And I sold the agency, moved to Rapid City from Las Vegas because I wanted to raise my kids in a small town where they could, ride their bikes outside and not melt, and it was safe and all the things of the small town feel. So I took a little time off and just was a mom with my kids. It was something that I hadn't really done. And at this point, they're kindergarten and second grade. And I had 5 different business concepts and 5 different business ideas in which I knew I was going to start something. And I knew I was going to continue to be an employer as I was in my agency and have employees and really make people feel valued and appreciated and that they know who I am as the owner and my mission. So one day I went and got my nails done, my daughter and I. She was 5 at the time. Typical nail salon experience. But what I realized when I left there is I was so frustrated with what the general population knows and understands and experience to be at a nail salon. Having a license, I knew it could be better. And it was something that I personally was looking for. So I drove home, literally scratched out all of my 5 business ideas and was like, I'm opening a nail salon. This is what I'm doing. And I found a spot in a great location. And 90 days later, I opened my first nail salon.
Wow. Is this in Rapid City?
It's in Rapid City.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Mind you, South Dakota is a state. Our entire state population is around 1 million. So our city of Rapid City is the second largest city in the state of 75,000 people. But we pull from a very large radius because of ranching communities.
Yeah,
so really it's about a
outside of the city. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, very much ranchy.
Yeah.
It's cattle country is what it is. So I just kind of thought, I'm like, I can't be the only person that is looking for this experience. And it just snowballed from there as to, I knew this was going to be a huge project for me, but I also knew that I was going to have to get back behind the bar and the chair, as it's called in the beauty industry, is back behind the chair, so that it could be built exactly like I thought. And what that meant was delving into doing nails. I had never done nails. I was taught that in cosmetology school, but what I had always done was hair. I knew nails. I understood. I always got mine done. I'm like, it's not that hard. It's just fingernails. So I just started studying up on it. This is back in 2011. Shellac polish and gel polish were very new, and that's the 14-day wear polish.
Yeah. Okay.
So the concept was completely natural nail care only, no artificial nails for the smell of the salon and all of that kind of thing. Quickly, as I was recruiting and figuring out what I was going to do for staff, and I needed to hire just a few people so that I didn't have too many, but I wasn't having anybody apply. And so I had to take a step back, like, what is going on? Well, I realized as cosmetologists, when we're in school, we're taught that all the money is in the hair and nails is an ancillary or an add on service. So all the money is to be made in hair. So I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to add salon chairs so people can get their hair done so that I'm able to get staff. So I redesigned quick and I added a couple of hair stations, and lo and behold, people start applying.
Hmm.
And so we kicked off, like I said, back in 2011. The best part about that part of the story is that within 6 to 8 months, all of my stylists were asking to turn hair services off. They didn't want to do hair anymore. They only wanted to do nails.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, they realized that there was money in nails. And, if you mess up somebody's nails, you take the polish off and you redo it. If you mess up somebody's hair,
Can't do that.
that's yeah, you redo it, depending on what it is. So, yeah, it started there. And the first 6 months, the biggest complaint from all of our clients was that they couldn't get in. They couldn't book an appointment. We were too busy. So I
A big
thought,
problem to
wow,
have.
my business
Okay.
plan had 10 locations in 10 years. I never indicated in the business plan where those 10 locations would be because I needed to see if the first one was even like, was this just a crazy Canada idea or was this something that was like logistically going to be successful? And so it was. And I was like, oh gosh, okay. So here's location two. Let's do this. And unfortunately, I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have somebody that I was a business coach or any of that hunger that we want and that we're starving for in mentorship and being an entrepreneur. And anybody I talked to, they just thought I was crazy. They're like, you're out of your mind. I don't know what you're doing, not understanding the vision, not understanding the business model. And I just thought, you know what, I'm doing this on my own and I am not going to worry about what other people think. I've never been one to worry about what other people think. And so a year later, I opened the second location and then it just spun from there. Then it was location 3 in Rapid City. Again, people thought I lost my mind, but we were booked. And the key is I didn't spend any money on advertising. I used every single client that came in as my billboard and talk to your friends about it. And that's the best thing about nail polish is women, we love beautiful nails. And so you see somebody's nails, you're like, oh my gosh, your nails look
Yeah.
nice. And they just start talking.
Yeah.
You don't have to ask them
No.
to endorse you.
My daughter does the
They
same thing. She comes home. Oh, look at my nails. Like, okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's you look good, you feel good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's one of those things. And before I knew it, it was like it was taking off bigger and faster than I even imagined. But the key was as I expanded, I chose to have one phone number. And as we opened up the second location, I created a small little office in an office space and it became my booking center. So every single person that called was getting an individual that could access both locations. Therefore, if they wanted a specific location and it was booked, we didn't have to turn them away to hang up and hope they call the
Mm,
second location and not somebody else.
mhm.
We would say, but we have another location on the other side of town. Do you want me to look there? And so customers were like, wait, you have 2 locations? So we're advertising as we're answering the phone, letting every single person know that we had 2
That's
locations
a smart little.
and then on to 3.
All right.
So the third one opened in Rapid City and, it defied all the odds of everybody who thought I was crazy that our city couldn't support 3 of these locations and knowing and understanding the demographics. So then I went on to the other side of the state over in Sioux Falls, which is about 350 miles away, and opened 3 more. So I opened 5 locations in 4 years, debt free.
Wow.
And then I opened location 5 the following year, and then location 6 and 7 opened right before COVID hit. We had to ride that
That
train.
was fun, I bet.
Yeah, that was fun. We survived. We survived, but yeah, that was fun.
So, okay. So take me through now. Okay, so you get to a certain point now. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. You have these locations going and you're getting through it, and then you decide you're like, I'm guessing at some point you're like, I need to, I'm want to turn this over to you sold to an employee. So what happened there? And then how did you come across doing the restaurant side of things?
Well, and let me even back up just a little bit into the polish
Okay.
line and developing Lucid Polish and Lucid Polish Pro. That came probably about 5 years into business. And as I figured out my costs and gel polish and all the products, they're expensive. Even at cost of what we buy at wholesale, they're pricey. And we were finding that there was a certain formula that we were looking for, and specifically our base coat is where it started. And so I started reaching out to manufacturers of gel polish and just explained everything that I wanted. And so went back and forth with samples. Excuse me. So I knew that if I could get this developed, that it would cut my costs significantly. And then also it launched another business with the pro line of having to have a license, working in a salon, and then the consumer line. And the consumer line was just made easy. And that was why I named it Lucid, because Lucid also defines as easy. And it was one step. So it had your base coat, your color, and your top coat all in one stroke.
Okay.
So it was very easy to use at home. So that became another baby within a perfect 10 because of having 7 salons. The amount of polish that you go through is pretty incredible when each location is doing a couple thousand manicures and pedicures a month. That's a lot of nails being painted. So it just made sense to do that. So as I approached the year of 2022, actually, I still own the salons at this point, and I had a wild idea in the middle of the night that my husband and I should open up a wine bar because we love wine.
Because why not?
Great idea, right?
So do I.
Yeah, yeah. And our town didn't have a wine bar. It's just Rapid City just didn't have a wine bar uh, to the level that we were looking, and having really unique and boutique wines and, charcuterie boards that were just full and overflowing and small bites in that. So in 2022, we opened up the wine bar, still owning all 7 locations and not even really thinking about, what my exit strategy was with the salons. But as that opened and I was enjoying it so much, I thought, wow, I should really pay attention to what the universe is kind of putting out there for me. And, first off, if you stop and think, how in the world do you go from nail salons to a wine bar? I don't know. I mean, if you know me, you would expect nothing less because that's just kind of how I roll. But the end of that year, just kind of started talking to my general manager. She'd been with me for 12 years and she oversaw operations. And I didn't even realize for about 5 years, I was grooming her to, obviously, I didn't know then,
Mhm.
but I was grooming her to take over the business. And so I had proposed that to her, what she thought about buying the business. And she kind of just, her jaw hit the ground. That was nothing that she ever expected to come out of my mouth, and walked her through that process, and was able to get her financing and put her in a position in her early 30s that she never would have had an opportunity to be in.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I still mentor her and coach her, and making sure obviously that my babies still thrive, but it's a very well-oiled machine, and she's killing it. So she bought it in early 2024. And I had no idea in 2011 when I opened that I was building a multi-million-dollar business debt free.
Wow. Wow.
I was just my mission was creating happy, healthy work environments for people to be able to support their families and afford to live, and also give back to the community education and what a nail salon and a nail salon experience should be.
Yeah.
And it's just it all the good came from that. My goal, obviously you need to make money, but the business plan was never about making money. The business plan was about developing this concept that was unique and different. And what was unique and different is our nail area is set up like a bar. So the nails techs actually stand,
Really?
and then we also offer beer and wine.
Well, look at you. All right.
Yeah,
Come get
so
my nails
it just
done.
Yeah, it's a nice, fun, relaxing experience.
So,
Yeah.
okay. So there's a couple things going on here. So you transition out of the business with the polish line. Do you sell that online or is that only just in your salons or like
No, it's
you do?
online.
Okay.
Yep, the
Okay.
pro and yeah, and the employee that bought the business, I also sold her the polish line as well because it made sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's
That
all
makes sense. Okay.
relative to the business and it's the right thing to do, so.
Okay. Okay. So then you have this wild, crazy idea to like open up a wine bar. And so then, like, now walk me through the process of how that took off for you, and then how did that translate into Salt Block? I tell you, we got a lot to
So,
cover today, so I'm trying to like get through
I
it. But
know it, I know it. I'm actually in the process of writing a book. It's a fun story that I've never slowed down enough to even reflect and look at because I'm just always in go mode and taking every opportunity that's kind of dropped into my lap. But my husband and I, like I said, every time we traveled, we just sought out wine bars and we kind of had just tossed around the idea, nothing very serious. But we went on a camping trip and literally in the middle of the night, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. I'll never forget it. I was like, we're going to open a wine bar. And my husband's like, okay. And 2 days later, I'm like, bought a space. And he's like, looks like we're opening a wine bar. I'm like, yeah. So he has an extensive background in wine and wine knowledge. He's very good at food. I'm very good at eating food. And we just literally took a passion of what we enjoyed and turned it into our own business. I mean, the business idea and concept is not new, but we just used all that background
yeah,
of what we enjoyed and made it come to life. And then with my business experience, we just complemented each other in the whole process.
wow,
And then you find people to work for you that know and fill the gaps that you don't know.
yeah,
And then you learn as you go so that you do know.
yeah, yeah. So this could be like a 2.0 interview that we could do, Canada. I mean, just talking about wine. I'm a big wine enthusiast myself, and I live in Idaho, as some people might know, but we actually have a really good wine region here. It's
Yes,
very, very good, and most people don't really know that. And so maybe I'll have to send you a bottle or something of one of my favorites that are here. Was just wine tasting this last weekend. So you and
fantastic.
I think we could talk wine all day long and those kind of things. I
Right.
love that. I love that stuff. It's so fascinating to me.
It is very fascinating.
So okay, so this business takes off, doing all right, doing pretty good. Okay, and then
Yeah. So that's in 2022. So then I sell the salons in 24. So about a year and a half later is what it amounted out to. It kind of was okay. I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to just breathe for a minute and kind of regroup. And after the close of the business sale, I think I lasted 30 days of sitting still. And then we're like, hey, we should open a burger place. And the side of town that we're on, it's growing and it's expanding. And there's so much opportunity that we kind of were like, I think we're crazy if we don't do this. And coincidentally, it's like 2 blocks from our wine bar. Like if you look out the window, you can see one from the other. And it again boiled down to there really wasn't a place in our hometown that was burger focused, that was quality beef, all of the things. And there are places around us in the hills, but just locally in town, there just really wasn't that niche of being really good at one thing. So my general managers of the wine bar came to me and they're like, "What do you think about us managing both locations?" Like, all right, well, this is how this works. And I knew, I had managers in my salons that had managed both locations or multiple locations. And so I kind of knew what that structure looked like. I knew what it involved. And, we just kind of started working toward that and what the communication looks like in order to succeed. And it was just off to the races. And um, it just boils down to doing what you need to do that you know you need to do and don't think. And that's the name of my book that will be coming out probably next time or this time next year, probably maybe a little bit sooner. But the name of the book is Don't Think. The whole mentality that I have about everything that I do when people are like, how do you do this? I don't think. I do what's
you
natural.
do.
And I'm not saying don't think in the literal form, but what happens is when we overthink things, we think ourselves out of an opportunity. We think ourselves out of that bucket list item that we wanted to do because we start doubting ourselves or we start thinking about how much money it's going to cost or we worry that I don't know this part of the business, therefore I can't do it. And that's just not in my vocabulary. And I realized for the first time, though, opening the burger bar, I was scared as hell. And I had never had that experience. And I realized I had to practice what I preach is when you become uncomfortable, you learn and you grow.
Yeah.
And I literally thought to myself, Canada, I think you've finally lost your mind. Like, what are you doing? You are stepping into a territory because that's one thing in a wine bar of like tapas and
Yeah.
flatbreads.
Now you're talking about
The full
cooking and
on,
all sorts of like whole
oh my
nother
gosh, in a
level.
kitchen, air vents.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a whole new monster. Again, it was, anytime I stopped to think for a minute, like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm like, stop, just go. You know, you're going to be okay. Use your resources of, the equipment supplier in town knows everything there is to know about restaurants. So ask questions. You know, I am not afraid to ask questions. And another thing that I think I can attribute just some of my knowledge to is I'm not afraid to ask. I mean, I remember back in my corporate days in Hair America, and I was a general manager, and we were sitting there and they're going over P&Ls. Mind you, I'm 20 years old, and I was like, I don't know what a P&L is. I wasn't afraid to ask it. And those were the days that Google wasn't around. You know,
Mhm.
you couldn't like quick Google
Right.
it on your phone and act like you know what you're
Peanut
talking about.
butter and lettuce?
Yeah, right? Yeah, I mean, I was just like, I'm gonna sound dumb, but I'm dumber if I don't ask so that I know than try to pretend. And, going back to that, I got my degree on the job, and I learned everything that I needed to know to get me where I am by asking questions and just not being afraid to demonstrate my work ethic and my common sense knowledge. But there was obviously a little bit of business education that needed to come with that. I learned as I went.
Sometimes it's just like trial by fire, right? You got to get in and you got to like, okay, I got to figure this out. Like
Yeah, yeah.
figure it out.
And and I always say it's the pivot moment that,
Yeah.
that when I first opened my salons, every Monday we'd close on Sundays just so I could have a day off because I was there open to close every single day, doing nails, making sure that all of our processes were refined and it was everything that I wanted the customer experience to be and making sure the staff was trained. And they would tell me, we look forward to coming to work on Monday because we know things are going to be changed. And it was that pivot. It was this is what I thought it would work being set up like that, but it's not. And so it's like rearranging the furniture in your kitchen when you move in that you think you know where the silverware and the cups are supposed to go until you start
Yeah.
moving
So you
around the
start
kitchen and
using
you're
it
like,
and you're
this is
like, wait,
not
this doesn't make
working.
sense. Let's put it over here. Like, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so I mean the point is that, people develop a business plan and they're so focused on that business plan, they don't pay attention to what's going on around them to realize if something's not working, you don't have to devise a whole new plan, change it. Realize what's working and what's not working and make those adjustments and pivot when you need to and recognize when something's not working. Don't wait for it to fail. Fix it before it fails.
Right. Right. I call it the art of the pivot. No, that's what I call it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to know how to navigate that.
So
And some people are just too scared to do that.
okay, so kind of walk me down a little bit through. I'm gonna get into some more of the business side, and then we'll move into more reflective side. Okay, um, is walk me through like what's your typical day look like now?
Now it's calm and cool collected. When we opened a year, so the Salt Block Burgers and Brews just opened a year ago, come the 18th. So we're just coming up on our 1 year
All right.
anniversary.
Okay.
So those days in the beginning, they were nuts. I was a dishwasher, and that's what I did every day for, a couple of weeks until I was like, all right, we got to hire some dishwashers because I wanted to make sure we didn't overstaff, and my husband was bar back and he's doing dishes and filling beers and ice and all that kind of stuff. So that was crazy. But once that settled, now my every day is basically overseeing operations. So my general managers make sure everything is running smoothly inside the wine bar and the burger bar, and I oversee the operations. So I'm helping guide and make sure, reviews are responded to, our cogs are in line, our payroll's where it should be, looking at numbers, making sure that we don't have theft issues, looking at where there's opportunity that we either expand and grow our menu or maybe we remove menu items that aren't producing as well as we thought and really looking at the numbers of those items and just drilling down in those rabbit holes as to where there's opportunity, and then come back, to my general managers and present the ideas that I have or the suggestions that we need to change, and vice versa. They do the same for me because obviously they're in the mix every
Yeah,
single day inside
they're
the
in it.
establishments.
Okay, okay. So what with the restaurants now that you kind of manage the wine bar and the burger place, what are some of the things that are impacting the business or growth of those brands or those entities at the moment? What are you challenged with?
I guess if there's one thing that I would say we're challenged with is the growth that's coming up towards our end of the city. So more restaurants are opening, but that doesn't scare me. I think competition is healthy. I think everybody needs competition. And even when we opened our burger bar, it literally, like I said, it's like a stone's throw from our wine bar. And people were like, "Why would you sabotage your wine bar like that? Why would you open up a business so close?" And I'm like, "Well, I have two answers for you. One, burgers and beer and wine, they're two different
Yeah,
customers.
they
So know
are.
your customer.
Yes, they are.
Secondly, I would rather be my own competition if I am competition than let somebody else be my competition. So if I don't go into that place, another restaurant's going to go into that place. So I would rather kind of have a little bit of a monopoly, but that was never a concern as to one sabotaging the other. Did business dip a little bit in the beginning? Yeah, because it's a new restaurant. Everybody wants to check it out.
Mhm.
So they're really, just the growth and making sure that, you're staying staffed properly, that you're, making sure that the wines are staying on a rotating basis, that you always have new things, making sure the food quality is always there in both places. And that's us physically just going in and eating it and trying it and making sure it's what we envisioned, and being involved with the kitchen staff and the kitchen managers, that we know every one of our employees. Every one of our employees know us, and we're the people, we're just like them. We are one of them. And there's never any intimidation for them to reach out to us. But this year in 2025, we kept kind of seeing a decline in wine sales, and we were trying to figure out what in the world is going on. So we started reaching out to our reps and asking questions. And we learned in 2025, the wine sales as an industry have taken a dip. And it has to do with THC drinks are coming out. So we have THC. So marijuana is not legal in South Dakota. Medicinal marijuana is, but recreational use is not. However, THC is legal. Therefore, THC drinks are a really big thing right now. So there's the THC wagon, and then there is the non-alcoholic wagon that a lot of people are on. And so again, so our wine sales have dipped, and everybody's like, "What are you going to do?" And it's, what do you always do? You ride it out, you pivot, you change. Our food sales are up. So people are loving our food. So maybe we fine tune our menu just a little bit and create some new things that, keep the interest and keep the drive there. And you don't panic, you pivot,
Yeah.
and it'll come back. I'm not worried about it. It'll be fine.
I never knew there was such a thing as a THC drink. I never heard of
Yeah.
that before.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yes, they
Alright.
extract the THC. I don't know a ton about the whole marijuana world, but the THC, I guess, is before it's actually marijuana. I don't know. Somehow there's a loophole that, yeah, there's like seltzers and drinks and all kinds of stuff out there now. People are drinking that alternatively to alcohol.
Okay. Alright. Noted. Alright, good to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are you doing currently then in, locally to drive get customers in the door? What are you doing? Like, are you advertising? Are you doing like what's going on? Like what's your approach?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sigh because it's so unusual, but it's worked for me. So again, I practice the same philosophy as I did with my nail salons, and I don't spend money on advertising. I utilize social platforms to the fullest. I utilize emails and email platforms to the fullest. And then you just figure out client engagement. So a perfect example would be, rather than spending $2,000 on a TV ad or radio for the next 3 months or whatever, a flyer or something of that sort, we'll do something on social media as we're gaining traction to say, tag 3 friends that you all would love to enjoy a bottle of wine with and be entered into a drawing to win a free bottle of wine. Like, share, all of the things. And so it's creating all the different engagement and it's creating more traffic on your page and more interest and intrigue. And then you start to get more and more followers, and then you just promote in different ways through your social platforms. And again, word of mouth is making sure that the experience and the quality of everything that you're doing is to the standard that you want so that they tell everybody about it. And that is the beautiful thing about opening business in small towns, smaller towns.
Everyone talk.
Everybody talks.
Yeah.
So matter of fact, when I had the business valuation done for a Perfect 10 nail and beauty bar, the evaluator called and was like, "Hey, can we have a conversation just one on one off the record? I just have some questions." And I'm like, "Sure." He said, "I'm actually a professor at a university in Sioux Falls, and it's business and entrepreneurship." And he said, "I'm talking to my students a lot about not wasting a ton of money on advertising and throwing money at the wall and hoping that it sticks." And he's like, "I did your whole valuation, and after 13 years of business," he's like, "you've not even spent $20,000 on advertising over a 13-year period. How have you done that?" And it's just what I said, utilizing all these platforms and making the experience to where you want to talk about it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, and then, I utilize resources like our news channels here in town is again, the advantage of living in a smaller town is we don't have all the crazy news to report. And so they're looking for things to talk
Yeah.
about.
They get
And
they
it's
get
great.
tired of, like, the cow got out from pasture 7 and, I grew up in a
There's a
small
cow on the
town
road.
too, Canada, so I know understand, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, I take advantage of all those opportunities because at the end of the day, it's about us giving back to the community. And that's the best part again about smaller towns is community understands that and they want to support local. But you also have to deliver a good product and a
Yeah,
quality product in order for them to promote you.
yeah.
But so I just practice and I live by that philosophy that all the advertisers in town know. They're like, "We know Canada's not going to do this, but can you give her this brochure to advertise with us?" And it just, I think I'm like, there's so many other ways we could spend that money that it's kind of a twofold. That's not direct advertising; it's indirect advertising, but it works.
Works for you, works for
It's
your
very
environment,
uncon.
works for
Yeah,
your locations. What,
it
what
does.
metrics are you looking at trying to improve over the next, throughout the rest of the year? Or is there something specific you're working on?
It's always just growth and growing over prior year. The wine bar is, maintaining. We have dipped some because of the burger establishment opening and then another restaurant opened very close to us. And so it's just, watching those numbers, but not panicking and understanding them and knowing, that it's great, but there's enough to go around. And so, coming out of the gates, gangbusters isn't always realistic. It kind of is like the year 2, 3, 4 that you really start to kind of get a pulse on what your norm
Mm,
is. And then, as for Salt Block, wow, it's just been gangbusters. It's been crazy. And it's actually producing almost as much volume as all 7 of my nail salons.
wow. Good for you.
Yeah. And
Ooh.
that I did not anticipate that at all, and so now the next question, lies in my lap is to do we open another one?
Mhm.
There's an opportunity to do that, and, we're crazy if we do, and we're crazy if we don't, so
Canada,
I
it
have a
wouldn't
little bit of
surprise me if you just, like, if we hung up a call right now and you're like, "I'm gonna open another one right now."
well, that is how I roll, I do, I roll just like that, and thank God my husband is so patient with me because he's just like, "All right, strap in, here we go."
Oh, good.
But trust me and my crazy, so I guess that's how it
My
works.
goodness. Well, that I mean, you're kind of touching on my next question is where would you be? Where do you envision yourself, 6, 12 months from now? Now I'm kind of assuming there'd be another maybe location for the burger place. Anything beyond that you have a vision for that?
At the moment, it's the point of it's funny because I just recently turned 50. And
There
so
you go.
now I'm reflecting on like how I got where I am and then what's next and making sure that I really find that sweet spot that I live life to the fullest and actually enjoy and reap the benefits of everything that I've done up to this point because that's all I know how to do is work. I'm really, really good at it. So I just stick with it. But it's to the point where I realized I need to find a hobby. Like I don't. have a hobby. My hobby is working, and I love working. And so it's that 12-month thing, and my staff knows this too. My general managers know. They're like, once Canada decides she's going to do something, it's all in, and we're going to do it. And it's when that moment just feels right and it hits me. And I know so many people would listen to this and be like, "You're nuts, lady. Like, what are you talking about?" It's worked. And therefore, I'm not going to deny whatever that is, that once it comes, you know, in the pit of my stomach, that I'm like, all right, this is what we're going to do. And there's no looking back once I do that. But to get to that point, there's a lot of thought. There's a lot of, how much more gas do I have in the tank? How much more gas do I want to have in the tank? What does this require of me, that I make sure I'm not creating more stress for myself and aging faster, and uh, missing out on those that sweet spot of
Yeah.
living life to the fullest. But in 12 months, it's very feasible that we would have another location in a city close by. There's an opportunity that, like I say, I mean, we're crazy. We're crazy if we don't. I just have to make sure that I've got the willpower to do it,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I could if I wanted to, but
Yeah.
I think I just need to sit still
And there's
for
a
a
lot of
second.
and there's a lot of energy. I mean, you got to exert a lot to get that ball rolling, I imagine. I've never opened a restaurant myself.
Hmm.
I've had friends that have them, but just that energy, and I just turned 50 as well, so I can completely,
Congrats.
echo
We're in the club
echo.
together.
Yeah, what was your birthday, by the way?
August 31st.
Okay, you're just slightly younger than I am, so I turned, July 12th is when I turned 50.
Okay.
So,
All
um,
right. Close.
yeah,
Very close.
75, baby, that's how we do it.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and it also is kind of funny, like you're a Gen Xer too, so that kind of plays into probably how you see life and work, because I think our generation, you know, again, this is probably another conversation we could have, but I think you and I we're very similar. Like yeah, I'm hearing you talk and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like hearing a clone of myself in certain ways.
Uh,
You're just way more efficient at it than I am. But, the idea of just like, okay, speed of implementation. Okay, this is the idea. All right, let's go. We'll figure it out along the way. There's a mantra that I follow, and you're basically touching on it, which is I follow why I do something, not how I do it.
yeah, exactly.
And when a lot of
It's
people,
it's kind of this
yeah, good.
the same concept as when I say, with whether you're in love with who someone is or what someone is. It's kind of this
Yeah,
the same thing.
yeah,
But the why behind it is super important, and I think that's what's missed. Is so many people want to be entrepreneurs because they think they're going to be instant millionaires, and they're going to have all this freedom and flexibility. Yeah, I remember my son when he started college and he was trying to figure out what he was going to do, and it was first engineering, and then he's like, "I want to do business and entrepreneurship." And my son is a rock star. He's super, super smart. But I'm like, buddy, you are not an entrepreneur. And he's like, oh, I totally am. Like, I can stay up late, I sleep in. And I'm like, I clearly have made this look way too easy for you. Like, that is not at all how it works. And he's not going to be a pilot, which is
you're
perfect.
like, okay,
But yeah, entrepreneurship is not for the faint hearted. That
it
is
isn't.
for sure. And if you have thin skin, it's not for you for
No,
that either.
it's filled with highs and lows and everything in between. And there's moments where you're like, why am I doing this again?
Yeah.
You want to put
Yes.
your head through a wall, but then you're like, then you have the opposite side where everything's great and all of the work that you have put into it comes to fruition at certain points, and then you can look
Yeah.
back and see how you the journey that you took to get there. But most people that I've learned don't have the thick
You're
skin.
right. You're right. And
Yeah.
when you do get to that point that you're asking yourself, like, what am I doing, is it goes back to what we're talking about, is you go back to why am I doing this? I'm providing jobs, I'm providing healthy work environments, I'm providing opportunities for people to learn things that they've never learned, I'm providing a platform that I get to share my experiences and teach people and coach people and make them better and help them learn and grow and be the best that they can be, and then you get motivated all over again.
Yeah. And then you're like, why did I do this again?
To knock you off that, I mean, you don't just have that thought once, you have it often.
All right. Hey, I got a couple reflective questions, and then we'll and then we'll wrap up because I mean, Canada, you're amazing to talk to, and you're such a lovely person. So,
Thank you.
um, a cup reflective question number one: if you could wave a metaphorical magic wand and just fix one thing in your business that's holding you back or slowing you down, what would that be?
Oh boy.
Getting a little deep here.
That's something to think about for a second. You know, honestly, I think the only thing that's holding me back is making sure that I don't end up digging myself into debt. Because if money wasn't an object, you know, you play that whole blue sky theory. If money wasn't an object, what would you do today? Well, I'd open 3 more locations and then question why the heck I did it. You know, I would say honestly, as crazy as that seems, that would be the only thing that's holding me back is making sure that if we do continue to grow or we do continue to expand, there is a difference with startup costs in opening a salon and opening a restaurant, and it is significant. Now you reap the benefits differently as well. As I indicated, the burger establishment is doing the volume of 7 nail salons, but the burger establishment cost about as much as it did to open 7 nail salons. So thank goodness, you know, the math all works out. But making sure, and I wouldn't even say it's holding me back, it's causing me to pause and really methodically think about does this make sense to do this in a monetary standpoint that we're not just acquiring more debt because what does debt do? It creates stress.
Mhm.
And you just don't want to do that. And thinking forward and going, okay, so if I do want to do this, what does that look like with saving every single penny, like I did with the nail salon, so that we can try to be as debt free as possible or, you know, have little to no debt. And so that really is the one thing that probably has the reins on me the most right now.
Mm, okay. All right. Well, I appreciate your transparency and honesty. I really do.
Yeah.
Um, Another reflective question. Looking back over everything that you've accomplished, what is one thing that you know now that you wish your younger self knew at that time?
I think the one thing that I realized that fortunately it worked out for me was not necessarily like when you start up that you don't have to have absolutely every single thing on your list that you think you need. And what I realized is in doing that, after you're open and you're running and you have brand new pieces of equipment that you've never used that you now can't return, and now you gotta sell them to another restaurant owner or business owner, eBay or whatever that looks like. So, it's that seems like a really shallow answer, but everything I know now what I know because of what I've been through, obviously. Um, and I don't think that I would have the knowledge or the crazy courage that I have if I wouldn't have made some of those mistakes that I'm glad that I made. I'm not regretful that I made some mistakes. So I don't know if I would go back and tell my younger self that because that made me smarter today because I felt the pain of it rather than just being told, don't do these things, which would have made the whole process easier. Therefore, I wouldn't have learned as much and been able to share the things now moving forward when people ask me to mentor or coach them that I can say, here's the things I want you to think about. Buy whatever you want, but I'm going to tell you buy less than what you think you need because you're not going to have to spend that much money.
Okay. So if I'm reading between the lines, if I'm paraphrasing here, it would be the lesson you would teach your younger self that you're not going to teach your younger self would be make mistakes.
Yeah. You know, and I am not afraid to make mistakes because just, I mean, think about life in general, not even business, just life in general is people like, oh gosh, I regret doing this because it was a mistake. Well, you wouldn't be where you are today if you didn't make that mistake. So don't dwell on those things. Make those mistakes. Fall on your face. Shed some tears. You know, scream at the top of your lungs. But it's part of the journey. It's part of how you get where you're going is making mistakes. If
Mm,
it's all perfect, then what do you learn from
that's
that?
true. You know, I've made a few in my evolution as well, and they hurt sometimes. You're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, I do.
and then you
And the
almost like
biggest thing is,
kick yourself, like, why did I do that? But you learn from it. You gotta get pick up every day and get back at it, you know?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, by feeling the pain point of the mistake, that's what reminds you not to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that, you get up and go, wow, that one hurt. That one took me out at the knees, but
Yeah.
won't do that again. And you just, if you're smart and on the right path, you don't do it again, or you identify if you're heading down that path
Yeah.
and you're about ready to do it again, pump the
Yeah.
brakes before you actually do it again. Learn from the first time.
Good piece
Kind of
of
like the hot
advice.
stove theory.
Good piece of advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
But okay, last question. This is a little bit more of a fun one. Mm, and we've covered a lot of ground today. And imagine we could keep going here, but what is like A, how do people find you? And then B, do you have anything coming up? Either an event at one of your, restaurants or at the salon that you like to promote. Give you the floor.
Sure. Gosh, for events, we do wine events often every 3 to 4 months at Bin 605. And our wine events will either bring in either a winemaker, somebody who works at a vineyard of the wine, or one of our wine reps. And then we have amazing food with them. We just had one. So our next one will be coming up for the holidays, first part of December. And then we have a craft beer event coming up on November 13th at Block Burgers and Brews. And it's a great opportunity for people to explore new things and have access to resources and food and wine and beer that isn't easily accessible in the area that we live
All
in.
right. Well, I lied. I have one more question because you just brought me up to one, and this is a fun one. This is a really fun one. Okay, it's a
All right.
two-part.
Okay.
At Bin 605, what is your favorite
Yes.
wine? To like that's kind
Oh,
of to. I know it probably changes. What's right lately?
yeah.
What's been one of your favorite wines? And then what is your favorite
Lately?
item on the menu at Salt Block?
Okay. So as for wines, an everyday wine, I'm a red wine drinker, kind of heavier. I'm a cab drinker, red blends. Uh, But the Austin Hope is probably the best everyday wine right
Yeah,
now.
it's a good one.
If you wanna go a little bit more higher end, there's a Pinot Noir, Blue Eyed Boy. That's my husband's favorite.
All right.
That's a phenomenal bottle of wine. But, I mean, we can get crazy, clear up to, Opus One and all the real fancy ones. But for an everyday wine, I would say Austin Hope is definitely a staple.
It's a good one.
No doubt.
It's a good one.
And at Salt Block, the best burger I think we have is called the Salt Block Burger. And it basically is a jalapeno popper on top of your burger patty. And we use
Yummy.
certified Angus beef. So it's very high quality beef and it is spicy and just delicious.
It's right in your wheelhouse. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah. And
you're making me really thirsty and making me hungry.
yeah, let's get a trip out to Rapid City.
So, okay, I literally could just ask you questions all day long. Like seriously.
Yeah, I love it. I
So,
love it.
but Canada, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And I don't know if this is a tradition I'm starting or whatever, but today I'm feeling it as well. And if nobody has told you yet today, I want to tell you I'm proud of you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for, pouring in to Rapid City and the surrounding communities and beyond, right? Not just there, but all that you all that you have accomplished today and are still continuing to accomplish, and your husband who just goes along with you and loves you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He
um,
just embraces the crazy. I guess
yeah,
that's the only choice he has,
yeah.
so you might as well embrace it.
But I just want to say
But
thank
thank
you.
you so much for having me
I
on.
appreciate it. And I'll make sure to put all the links to all the different places, all the stuff you got going on in your world in the show notes. But that wraps up today's episode on the Rise Up podcast. I'm been lucky and fortunate enough to spend time with Canada Salter. So thank you, Canada. And all right, there you
Thank you,
go.
Justin.
Tune in next time to the next episode, and we'll see you guys in the next one.